Hi, I'm Bob Weir with another interview of People in the News in North Texas. My guest today is Paige Dixon, who is running for place one on the LISD Board of Trustees in the May 1st election. Good morning, Paige.
Good morning, Bob.
Okay, good to see you. Now, if you would begin, please, by giving our viewers a brief description of your background in education, administration, so forth.
So my name is Paige Dixon. I have two amazing boys that go to school at LISD. I actually am a combat veteran and a former PTA president for about 2 years. I'm the current advocacy chair for the District Council of PTAs. And I really got inspired to run just from my time serving as a PTA president in a Title I school. Kind of just seeing how schools worked in the district and where we had some policy failures and probably just needed a little bit more insight. And so that's what inspired me to run for this office.
All right, for those who may not know, please explain the duties of an LISD board member.
So basically, the board is governed by by TEA, and we oversee your budget, your buildings, teacher hires. We hire the superintendent. Well, actually, superintendent hires educators, but we hire the superintendent. We look over, we govern over the academics and that kind of thing. In your school, we take on grievances from parents and such and so forth.
All right, so you hire the superintendent. That's it for you. Okay. And
yeah, we pick him. And currently in LISD, I believe that he's responsible for hiring everyone below principal.
And does the board work with the superintendent on education policy?
Yes, we do. It's a beautiful relationship. So it goes hand in hand. And you'll see the superintendent at all the board meetings. He's right up there with the other board trustees.
Right. What is the size of the LISD budget?
I believe it's for this year, it's like $543 million.
And is the budget established by the board with the superintendent?
Yes, so it is established because, of course, we need feedback on exactly what we need, if we're needing maintenance and such and so forth. But yeah, it's established. It's teamwork, Bob.
Yeah, and that money can also be used. I'm asking, can it be used like to build schools as well?
Well, there's a particular part of the budget, I believe it's called MO, and that's the part of the budget where we use to build schools and to go in and to do maintenance. And there's two, they call it two buckets of money. And so you can't pull for maintenance out of the other bucket, but MO is the one that you pull from to repair schools, build schools, such and so forth, pay for educators.
Let me ask about the pandemic. Has it added financial costs to the school district?
Yes, I believe we had to pull out $12 million in reserve funds to pay for some of the things that we provided during COVID, like the dividers, such and so forth. We've had to increase some of our substitute pay because we had lost a huge chunk of our substitutes over the summer. So just kind of enticing people to come and substitute in the schools. Of course, with COVID, we're having educators having to quarantine. And so there's a huge need for people to come to step into those classes.
How about the approximation of the amount of students that generally attend LISD schools?
So I think when we started this year, about 40% of the student population was actually opting into virtual learning. Right now, I think we have about 30,000 students that are on campus with about 20,000 that are doing virtual.
Okay, so that answers the next question I was going to ask about the amounts in person and remotely. So it's about 40, 60, something like that.
Yeah, it's about 40, 60. So
okay.
Like I think that was a little bit more than I know the superintendent had anticipated at the beginning of the year. I was actually really shocked too to see a huge chunk of parents opt to virtual learning. I opted, so I have two kids. I have a 15-year-old and 11-year-old, and we've been doing virtual learning here at home, and it is a huge task to take on.
Yeah, I imagine it is. Yeah, for the student to get the same type of education that he would get in person. I mean, that's a challenge. That's a real challenge.
Well, I mean, there's no way to duplicate that. I mean, we have really great educators and we've been blessed in that respect. Like the boys have teachers that have really adapted. They've seen where the kids probably need a little bit more instruction. There's been amazing communication with me as a parent, and I can't speak for everyone in their virtual learning experience because I definitely have heard, people with other stories, but our experience has been pretty good. But I am in no way can I duplicate what happens in that classroom. And so it's not the same by far.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. Just the children being around other children, I think has a lot to do with how they respond. Um, how about, in your opinion, how will students make up for the lost educational instruction of the last year?
That's really a hard one, because, when I think about my fifth grader, in his mind, he's like, I have just been going to school every day, doing the best that I can. And I don't know that, I always try to think of things in such a way that we're not putting that extra burden on our students
Yeah.
because they're like, I did what I was supposed to. Um, when I think of it, when I look at what he's doing, I don't know that he's fallen that far behind. And teachers typically every year we have what's called a summer slide. And so every year what happens, most people take their kids on vacation. They don't do any type of curriculum. They don't read any books. And so when they come back to school after vacation or long periods of time away from school, there's a little bit of an academic slide. And so teachers usually spend those first couple of weeks or those first couple of days catching them back up. And I think that might be one of the things that we do is take a little bit of time when we're able to do more in-person instruction and kind of catch our students back up, do some benchmark tests to know exactly where we are, to know exactly how much work we have to put in. And that would be more of a discussion with my fellow board members so that we can put all our heads together and come up with a good solution as to how do we do that and not add an extra burden to parents and to students.
Yeah, because that's what I hear all the time. The question people ask is, are the children going to lose a year of education? And it would be like being left back a year. We used to call it left back if you didn't make the academic requirements. So um, it, the challenge is to make sure they got enough education so they can be advanced to the next grade without losing a whole year, I suppose. That's quite a
And I
challenge.
think, and I honestly feel like right now with our educators, they're doing a really good job, but there are of course still some things that are being lost. Right now I have a GT kid, my 15-year-old is GT, and I know that he's losing something. This would have been his first year in high school. He's losing that social interaction. I'm having to constantly get behind him to turn in those assignments. And so I know that there is a loss there, but I'm not overly concerned that we as a district won't be able to catch our students up.
Yeah. It makes me think about when I was a kid, if they said there was no school for the whole year, I'd be elated. I'd say, wow.
They were so, and I think so last March when everything really, we never came back from spring break.
Yeah.
I said, well, you guys aren't going back. And they were super excited. But then we took on that virtual learning, and virtual learning this year is completely different than what it was last school year when everything, just went haywire and we were all trying to remain flexible. It was just not as structured as it is this year. But I think they've gotten over it. Like my oldest son had to go into school and take the PSAT, and he was just so excited to see other kids.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're losing certain things. We're trying to keep them safe. We're doing the very best that we can. But yeah, I think they're kind of over the whole, virtual school, especially my oldest son, he's in band. And he's like, Mom, band and like virtual school, like those two things should never happen. Like that does not work.
Okay, let me ask you, generally, if you're elected to the board, what do you expect to bring to the education system in LISD?
I think to bring a unique perspective. When I look at our board, I don't think that they have a problem with, performing the technical task of a board. They do, a good job there. And we can all agree that LISD is an amazing school district, but we are missing certain things. I told you that I served for 2 years in a Title I school as a PTA president, and there are some unique situations there that I think that when we create policy, sometimes we create it from our own perspective and we miss things. And so I'd like to bring my perspective to the board so that we could create better, more inclusive policy, especially when we start talking about the fact that that there are 25 Title I schools within the district. 24 of those schools are within Louisville and the Colony, and we currently have no one on that board from either one of those cities. I am from Louisville. My children have attended Title I schools, and I'm familiar with the unique situations that are happening in that space. You know, currently we have an achievement gap. If you watched the last board meeting, they were talking about basically having goals for reading for our students. And I think the goal for the district was like about 77%. And you were seeing, you know, our white student body coming in about 85%. You were seeing our Asian student body coming in about 89%. But you were noticing that our Black student body and our Hispanic student body were coming in about 60, the low 60 percentile. And so when we start talking about what do I bring to the board, it's that unique perspective. It's that that motivation to close that achievement gap. You know, I understand what it is. I did 15 years in the Army. I understand what it is to work 14 hours, to come home, to have to prepare a meal, to get children ready for the next day. And, you know, you're not reading anybody a book for 30 minutes. You're exhausted. When I look around the district at a lot of things that we have, you know, they're structured around parents who can come to meetings at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, that can come to meetings at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's just not everyone's situation. We talk about, you know, having classes that don't make because students don't sign up for them. And I think a lot of that is just basic communication. Again, when you're a working parent, you know, that one email that's sent out by the district, that's simply not enough. So basically wanting to create policy that's inclusive, that doesn't leave anyone behind, and make sure that we're closing the achievement gap here in district.
Well, thank you for your military service.
It's an honor to serve.
That's wonderful. Let me just, we're getting to a close, but what type of campaigning are you doing, and do you have a website?
I do have a website. You can find me at www.page4texas.com. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at Page for LISD. And I'm honestly just doing the typical campaigning. Like I am, you know, putting up yard signs, knocking on doors, making phone calls, you know, taking interviews like this one just to make sure that I connect with the community and people know that we're out here and we're running this race.
Absolutely. Yeah, name recognition is very important. Your website will be in the written portion of this as well. So we're coming to a close. Is there anything you'd like to add?
You know, I just, you know, for my race, it's one from my heart. I really love this district. I have a passion for children and for education. I believe it's the great equalizer. And really that's why I'm running. You know, this is not the crown and glory to a 30-year career or anything like that. This is honestly me wanting to serve everyone in my community and understanding that I have something to give and offering that up, you know, and willing to be a servant leader.
Well, I want to thank you, Paige. It's been a real pleasure talking with you, and I want to wish you good luck in the election.
Thank you very much, Bob.
All right, let me close this out. Take care.